Defence Force, generally Defence Force careers, and some sponsorship opportunities that the Defence Force have, such that you can do more than just eat noodles over the next 4 years if you were to go down that path. Alright, so this constitutes our introduction to mechanical as well as your introduction to this Defence Force. And then I'll talk a little bit at the end of the lecture more on what specifically you'll be doing in mechanical engineering at JCU if you chose that. And then we have a tutorial this afternoon that everyone's aware of. Hopefully everyone has close-in shoes for that. We're going to be doing some drawings of different actual pumps and things. Okay, but otherwise I'll head over to Major Shaw to talk about the Defence Force.
Cheers, thank you. So you guys all first years? Yeah. Excellent. Okay, you haven't chosen which pathway you want to go in engineering yet, is that correct? No? Okay, cool. And you're all looking at potentially going down the mech side of things, yeah? Excellent, okay. Good. I can tell you about a number of different things. Okay, such that I don't stand directly in front of that microphone, I'll wander around a little bit. Essentially guys, my name is Major Michael Shaw. I'm from Defence Force Recruiting. However, before that, I actually had a job within military as an aeronautical engineer. So today is going to be more of a motivational lecture to give you an idea of things that you can do as an engineer, not just within the military, but also on the outside. So I appreciate as a first year engineer, you're probably going, what on earth can I do with my career? Yeah? Done wisely, done wisely. Yep, cool. Okay, so I'll give you sort of a background of what I've done. Some of the sort of things that you're seeing there. No? Okay, cool. See if we've got the clicker right. Excellent. Okay, so essentially I'll go over today what an aeronautical engineer is, what they sort of do within the military, and then I'll give you 3 days of my life, my 14-year life in military. Hopefully give you some sort of motivation to stay at JCU and continue on with your engineering career, and then potentially come across the class at some stage. And then I'll also tell you about, as we were discussing before, how we can stop you from eating too many noodles for the remainder of your career. Okay, so what is an Army Aeronautical Engineer? Is anyone reserves at the moment? No? Has anyone got mates who are engineers within the Army at the moment, being Garrison Town? Yep, cool. Okay, so what do they do? Okay, so civil engineer, yeah? Okay, I'm an aeronautical engineer or a mechanical engineer. Everybody else know? No? Okay, cool. Means I get to talk. Okay, so within the Army or Australian Defence Force, we're the second largest fixed wing operator of aircraft and the largest rotary wing operator of aircraft, so helicopters, within Australia. So essentially we have one of the largest sort of abilities within Australia to teach you about aeronautical engineering or mechanical engineering from that side of things. Because as a mechanical engineer you can do aero jobs within the Army, Navy, Air Force. Okay. We also have sort of 6 different aircraft types within the Army, including one UAV, which is the Shadow 200. Also good news for the Air Force, they've just bought the Triton as well, which is essentially the global war, but a marinized version of that. Fantastic little capability. So what are the things that we do as engineers within the Australian Defence Force? There's 2 different sides, being a maintenance engineer and a design engineer. I'm going to go over this a little bit more, but essentially a maintenance engineer, think as an officer, you're the guy who's in charge of the tradies. Okay, so the people who fix the aircraft, fix the vehicles, those sort of things. So my job as a maintenance engineer was to be in charge of about 100 to 150 guys and make sure the aircraft are online. So that's a maintenance engineer. Whereas as a design engineer, you're more looking at working with an assistance program office, so to try and sustain that aircraft or that vehicle platform to remain in operation. I'll go into that a little bit more, but you're also potentially looking at acquisition of the next aircraft or the next vehicle platform as a mechanical or aeronautical engineer. So you're that engineer who's signing off on these things. Also within the military, you may also have the crazy option of doing flight test engineering. If anyone knows about that, essentially we're strap you into some sort of a crazy aircraft that has never been operated before and you fly. If you want to do that, go for it. That's not my sort of thing. Prefer to make sure that aircraft is serviceable before I let my guys fly. Okay, so this is my first day out of university. Give you a bit of background. I did ADFA, so I trained at Defence Force Academy, 2001 through 2004, 2005, so I did RMC as well. My first day out. So the boss says to me, Nick, 2 ICs fall over. This is actually quite literally about 5k down the road, like that. 2 ICs fallen over. I need you to go down to Sydney and prep some jets. After that, I'll meet you in Melbourne with the remainder of the squadron. Road party's already deployed, don't worry about that. The sergeant is sorting out a lot of the minutiae. Welcome to the unit. This is my first day. So essentially, now to remember what's in Melbourne. Commonwealth Games. So one of the largest deployments of Australian Defence Force personnel since Vietnam. And most people actually didn't know about it. There was nothing with that. It was fantastic. So we sat in Melbourne for approximately 3 months. Well, a month either side. And was down there prepping aircraft, initially for support to Special Forces. So we, as 171 Aviation Squadron, was supporting Special Forces at the time. Went down there, prepped the jets, did some training lead up, conduct of that actual activity, and then drawdown of that. So with 10 jets, 10 Black Hawk aircraft in Melbourne. It was fantastic as an engineer who had never seen the aircraft beforehand and was down there. So the big thing as a maintenance engineer for me was I knew nothing about that aircraft. So luckily I had some very highly trained tradespersons in my sergeants and warrant officers that were down there, and also my junior NCOs, so junior non-commissioned officers, who were down there who knew a lot about that aircraft. That could give me a lot of information I could learn about that aircraft whilst I was there, such that I could do the maintenance planning as a maintenance engineer. So we were looking at how do we fix that aircraft, both scheduled and unscheduled maintenance. So you guys are probably looking into that a fair amount at the moment with that side of things. So what a tendency of things happens with an aircraft is you put it online, so here you go, aircraft flies away, so a pilot takes it away, they go and execute a target, they come back, and they usually break it in some way, shape or form. As an engineer, we unbreak it and then send it back out again. That's the simplest way to put it. The level of engineering within that, I was the person who was looking after that, and also my boss. So that kept me extremely busy during that 3 months. Also got to see some very cool stuff working with Special Forces and support to those units. Second day. Essentially think about, in that previous slide, you saw the boss. So he was the technical support troop commander. I then stepped up to that job down at 6th Aviation Regiment in Sydney. In that position, I had 10 Black Hawk aircraft under my signature and 130 tradespersons. And I think we worked out it was roughly $500 million worth of kit. As a tech, essentially a junior engineer, been around 4 years roughly, before I was first or second year captain. Went into that role. So once again as a maintenance engineer, so I was doing the planning of maintenance for that aircraft, planning of my 130 guys for whether or not we move to different locations to fix those aircraft. So I think, do we send a maintenance crew out with those aircraft to go and fix them because they'll break minor brakes, or do we contact them by phone and give them authorisation to fly home to us and we'll fix them at home? Think about potentially getting a phone call at 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon saying, hey, we need 4 jets in Perth tomorrow morning, and working through the night, so getting the maintenance teams in, work through the night to what we call folding, So putting those aircraft back in the C-17 and flying to Perth or somewhere in the Australasian region. Absolutely fantastic job, guys. So that was what I did in that role. Similar sort of stuff to what you're going to do is potentially a civilian engineer, but probably not on such short notice to move. So that was my job. One of the big things that you're probably not going to see as a civil engineer, or sorry, a civilian engineer, is this concept of looking after 130 tradespersons. That's something that I've noticed as I've been doing these presentations, that a lot of my civilian engineering counterparts aren't doing the man management side of things. So thinking about you and your personal situation to make sure that you can deploy, so that your wife and loved ones are looked after whilst we're deployed. On usually short notice. That's something that you've really got to take into account when you're moving these people around. So dealing with simple issues from can't get kids to work because you're leaving, kids to school because you're leaving too early for work, or that you're in the middle of nowhere and you can't contact their loved ones, or you can't get them on a promotion course or some sort of course like that. That is one of the big challenges, not just being an engineer. So have to think about that from, if you're looking at project management or man management, human resources is a really big thing that you need to think about as an engineer within the Australian Defence Force. So those two examples I've given you are about being a maintenance engineer. Now, after that, I had the opportunity to go to the Blackmore Systems Program Office, which is at Oakey. So I think Brisbane go in about 2.5 hours, just about 30k away from the place before. So quite literally in the middle of nowhere. That's where I was working as a design engineer. So that's probably what you guys think you're going to do as an engineer, yeah? No? Wouldn't have a clue? No? So who thinks as an engineer, who's seen Dilbert cartoons? You haven't seen Dilbert. You're engineers. This will explain your life very soon. Okay. As an engineer, you'll find you'll think very differently to the rest of the world, and Dilbert will explain your life. So, in most cases, people think engineers are the people that are inside a cubicle that never sees the light of day. Yeah? Who wants to be one of those? No? It was a leading question. Okay. So in that systems program office, I was actually one of those design engineers who, not locked in a cubicle, however, was a lot further away from the rest of the fleet. So whenever the pilot or someone broke that aircraft horrifically, they would then send it to us. Would send us all the design, pictures of the design or the piece of the part that they broken, and say how to fix it. So I find myself calling Sikorsky as the original equipment manufacturer of that aircraft, and dealing with US Army in a lot of cases, because they also operate the aircraft as one of our coalition partners. So finding out ways that we can fix that aircraft and then get it back online. So whether it be a crack on the aircraft, we simply can't get the piece. So parts being a 20-year-old aircraft, or 25-year-old aircraft now, simply those bits aren't being made. So we would have to go and make them ourselves. So we've got to find an engineering organisation to go and build them for us. So that's some of the challenges that we're working with. Also found myself in the news 3 times, 6 o'clock news, through engineering decisions that I had made, which is something that you're probably not going to see as a civilian engineer a lot, especially as a junior to medium sort of level engineer. I found myself in a situation where we had 2 aircraft in Kokoda, and one of those aircraft had an engine malfunction or a transmission malfunction, where it became disconnected from the engine. So think about the hub, became disconnected from the engine. It quite literally just shredded itself. That aircraft then put down, and that aircraft was stuck in the middle of Kokoda on 24th April. So day before Anzac Day, it was going to fly CDF or CA, so Chief Defence Force or Chief Army, into Kokoda the following day. Fortunately, I was the engineer, fortunately, I don't know, and had to put his hand in his heart and say, sorry boss, jets don't fly. Within 4 hours, that was on the 6 o'clock news, that Black Hawks aren't flying. So that's the sort of level of engineering that you can do and the implications of your decisions. So I have to think about that as an engineer. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Other people find it horrific. I've told my mates, a lot of my mates on the outside about that, and they're just like, why do you do this? Why do you love it? So that's my side of things, guys. To give you an idea of things that you can do within the military and go from there. So now I'll sort of swap over into a bit more of the benefits and things as a general engineer within the Australian Defence Force. Who wants to go into a Masters after they've done their undergrad? Yeah? In what? Project management, engineering science, that sort of thing?
No, more physics.
Sorry?
More like physics or something.
Okay, so not engineering specific?
No.
Okay. Yep. So have a think about that, because within the Australian Defence Force, we will actually pay for people to get their Masters. So if you're within the Australian Defence Force, so for example, I'm completing my second Masters right now, completely paid for by Defence. Unfortunately, I haven't assigned to about 10 days, so that's started. Okay, it's only 50%, feel good. Okay, being such a large organisation, we employ about 100,000 people within Australia. We move people around a lot, so you're going to get opportunities to see a lot of Australia and the Australasian region, which is brilliant. I've done stints up here in Townsville, I've done Brisbane, Oakey, Sydney, Canberra. I unfortunately haven't seen Melbourne yet. That'd be nice. Yeah, so have a think about that, guys. Also, free medical and healthcare. So who's got parents in the military at the moment? Yep. Are you guys now getting the free medical as spouses? Yeah. So you're starting to get looked after in that way as well. But we're not just looking after the member, we're looking after their loved ones as well. So essentially it's the Medicare gap that we're paying for as well. And also 80% super on top of your job, which is pretty good considering there's only one organisation that's above us in that. Does anyone know who that is? Yep. Okay, and job security. I don't need to go over that number, guys. Okay. I can go over the 4 different types of engineering, but essentially I'll go over aerospace engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and civil engineering. Yep. So that's the 4 main types within the Australian Defence Force. So that would be aligned to what JCU does, would that be correct?
We don't do aerospace computing.
Yep, okay, cool. As a chemical engineering, very hard for me to find a job at the moment. Okay. So as an aerospace engineer, you look at your aeronautical, avionics, armament, and weapons electrical aircraft. That's interesting, I can relate to me. Okay. So I can go over that a little bit, guys. However, have a quick look at that one. The big one being ILS, being looking after logistics, so not just an engineer in that side of things. So logistics is a fairly large component of our job because we're moving parts around Australia. And opportunities to be a senior engineer. As an electrical engineer, some of the big things that you'll be looking after include those radar and sonar systems. So getting into that sort of area, specifically within the Navy, but we do that obviously within the Air Force and Army as well. So if you want to go into the elect side of engineering, that is definitely for you. Mechanical engineering. Okay, so this is probably what you guys are interested in as potential intro to mech. Similar to aero, except you're working on vehicle platform. It's the simplest way to put it. that also includes the Navy side of things, so look at hydraulics, propulsion, not just structures, okay, as a mechanical engineer. So a lot of my work is structures based or engines based. As an aero or mech, we sort of learn a little bit in the military. Okay, so if you're on a ship, you're dealing with the structure of that ship as well. So think about something that's 20 years old and you're trying to push through the water. Very challenging sort of situations that you're in. Okay, civil engineering. Who's doing civil or looking down civil path? Yeah? Okay. Two different sides of civil engineering. Obviously, the Navy doesn't have civil engineers. Just putting that out there, guys. It's something we'll ask about. Okay, so think about mobility, counter mobility. So essentially putting out a bridge or building a road, that sort of thing. Okay, or building obstacles as a civil engineer. Or counter mobility being destroying that bridge or destroying that road or destroying obstacles coming in that you're trying to get through. Okay? Yep. That's probably the simplest way to think about it. Okay, as a civil engineer, general engineering tasks. So building smaller obstacles or structures to assist land movement and also in the airports, potentially building airfields. Yeah. We build a lot of smaller airfields, so for example Sherga and those sort of things, with their bases within Australia, or going to, say, Afghanistan and building some of the bases that are turret power plants, something like that. Okay, this is probably what you guys are more interested in at the moment. This is where the jobs start. Okay, so you see grad versus DUS. DUS being Defence University sponsorship, which I'll go into in a second. So as mechanical engineers, you're more looking at that marine engineer, aeronautical engineer, armament engineer. Does anyone know what an armament engineer does? Okay. Interesting. I haven't had that explanation before. So essentially, an armament engineer is the person who puts bombs and missiles on Air Force aircraft. That is their sole job. So they'll do fusing systems, they'll put it on the actual aircraft, and they're also the ones who go and pick it up when it doesn't go bang. So, okay, so guys, I'm not going to go over the direct entry officer option for you, obviously your first year, but Defence University sponsorship is probably something you're very interested in. What is it? Essentially, to put this in as much layman's terms as possible, such that you're not eating 2-minute noodles for the remainder of your degree. We will pay you to remain at JCU, and from second, third and fourth year, we'll pay you to be an engineer, and we'll also give you quite a good little package on top of that. You'll then have a job, you actually have a job as an undergrad, and then you'll go directly to a job on the outside, as in within Great Army, Navy or Air Force, once you've completed that. So you're just about to finish your first semester here. Yeah? Okay. So at the end of your first semester, you can apply for this. So it will take up at the start of second year. Okay? Does that make sense? That's the pay packet, guys. So 45 grand roughly as a fourth year that you will be paid. On top of that, you get 18% super on top of that salary. Free medical and dental. E.g., I don't actually own a Medicare card. Does that make sense? Okay. Free housing. So those people that are military spouses at the moment, you probably know about a thing called RA, or rental assistance. So, for example, I'm paid roughly $300 a week tax-free to go and live in a high-rise apartment in the centre of Brisbane. You would be paid similar sort of wages on top of your salary as a DUS candidate. So Defence University sponsorship. You also get $1,000 towards a technical allowance. and a guaranteed career on top. Now the number that you see there, 75 grand, is there's a number of benefits on top of that, but that's essentially your pay packet as a first year engineer on the outside, which is not too bad considering it's probably another 25 grand of benefits on top of that. Yeah, pretty much gone over that one fairly well. With regards to application process, I'm a Brisbane-based person, guys. So Townsville, DFR, Defence Force Recruiting will look up. The simplest way is to get onto the Defence Jobs website. So grab one of the pamphlets that's out the front. Get onto the Defence Jobs website and apply. You can do it all online. Then you'll come in for a 4-stage process, which is your U session, which is your opportunities unlimited. You will then come in for an assessment day, your officer selection board, and then a fitness test. Okay, for Army candidates, the officer selection board and the fitness test is sort of involved in the same day. Okay, so your U session is essentially doing basic aptitude testing, a basic medical health questionnaire, and then an interview with a careers counsellor. So a careers counsellor is a person who will ask you a few questions about what your motivations to get into the Defence Force are and where you want to go. Being an engineer, it's fairly simple where you want to go. Okay. Your assessment day, which is you'll come in for the next day, will be where a defence interviewer will ask you a lot of questions about the job role that you want to go for. On top of that, you'll do a fairly extensive medical assessment. So they'll see if your arms and legs work essentially. And then you'll have a chat with the site as well. So the psychologist to see if your motivations are correct. That side of things. Officer selection board, for Army guys, will fly you down to Canberra and you go and visit Dunstone. You'll do your officer selection board there, which is a written exam, a group assessment, physical assessment, and then another interview with the board. And the final element being your fitness test, which a lot of people worry about in the military, but firstly, I wouldn't be too concerned, guys. That is the entry test. Okay, this is a purely OH&S requirement. Okay, this is not a standard that military members, once you're in, go towards. We do what's called a basic fitness assessment. This is purely an OH&S side of things called an initial fitness assessment, such that you don't break yourself within the first 3 weeks of training. It'd be amazing how many people can't make that, by the way. Over to you guys. Questions? Yeah.
My older brother's in the army, I did my career at university. So I'm fit on journey code and current rotating weeks. What would you suggest to me?
As in you want him to do DUS? Or you want him to do?
I want him to do something more.
Yep.
Because he's more working on
So probably get in contact with myself and we can sort of talk it through. We'll get in contact with his boss and we can talk it through. Because he can do, since he's in the military, he can potentially swap across to officers and do long-term schooling, go down hard or something like that, or come to a university such as JCU and do his undergrad if he wants to do that.
So would he still have to do his job and back?
No, in most cases we would swap him over to an officer and he'd do long-term schooling. So he'd get a hard for He's Bolton. He's a Bolton. And you're on step. Yeah. Just grab me afterwards and walk through. Yep.
As a design engineer, did you have any qualification on like future prospects of
Yeah, so there's a lot of, we know what the state got in the pipeline, what we've got in the pipeline. So I'll go with that. Yeah, we can talk through that. Yeah.
With the DUS, obviously the military is giving you lots of benefits. What obligations do you have, like
Good question. Okay, so essentially the obligations you have to the Australian Defence Force if you went through the DUS scheme, so if you got sponsored second, third and fourth year, you would essentially have a ROSO, or return of service obligation, or initial minimum period of service, depending on which acronym you want to use at the moment. You would have 4 years on top of that. So you come to us 4 years after you've done your degree. That said, when you're second, third and fourth year with us, you actually have a job. It's not actually what most people think, oh, it's a sponsorship, I'm not committed to it, because a lot of other organisations do that. You actually have a job straight up, so you have 7 years with us. Does that make sense? Yep.
You say like a job there for second, third, fourth year, like what would that involve?
As in you're a uni student.
Yeah.
So for second, third and fourth year with us. Your only real commitment to military in uniform, for Army is none, for Air Force is 1 week a year, and Navy is 2 weeks a year. So that's we're only really focused on you being a uni student. It's such that you can essentially get a better grade and come across as better engineers. We'll train you how to be an officer afterwards. Does that make sense? Any other questions, guys? Yep. I'll say no. However, the better you are doing, the better you will obviously go through a selection. So think about paperboard. If we can see your results, you're a higher performing student, obviously you're going to come across to us a lot better. Does that make sense? But there's no. Yep. So guys, good question. Permanent residency versus citizenship. Yes, you can apply as a permanent resident. However, your first day in the military, you have to be a citizen. So if you've only just started your permanent residency, probably not going to be there. So I think the last 6 months. Okay. Yep.
When you actually play Korean, what's the year of play military?
No, so the training courses for Air Force consist of 18 weeks, Navy 22 weeks, and then you do 2 16-day courses, so you do the exercise course done for it, as opposed to I did to 18 months. Yep. You guys got a question? You can do it, you can ask. It's okay. You don't have to be nervous. It's okay. Oh. Well, now we've all looked at you, so. Yep.
Is it like credit for us to be on, like looking down posting?
Yeah. So you find after you've done your DUS time and come across to Big Bad Army Navy Air Force, you get posted around in a couple of years usually. So your initial training is going to be credit for all done through, but after that you could be posted anywhere. Which I actually really enjoy. Every 2 to 3 years I move around, so I get to build new friendships, new places to live. Yep.
So doing the DUS of chemical engineering, what happened then?
So I'll give you a pamphlet that you can get from us, but unfortunately with chemical engineers, there is a lot of supplies. I'm really sorry. You can potentially go down that armoured engineer side of things, but it is actually not something that we're looking at the moment. I don't think we can't fill it with MEX or EX. We'll think about going to MEX. Yep.
If you're not interested in doing research, doing courses at university,
Yeah.
what would you recommend as that?
Yep, so we've got details out front there for you. Southern Holland will be able to chat to you about reserves, because there is spots being in garrison town, there's a lot of jobs up here as reserves. If you are looking at being a reserve and getting DUS guys, it is quite challenging to swap you from reserve to a DUS candidate, because as a reserve you're usually a general enlisted person. So I think OR and then coming across places. Yep.
Michael, is there a regular pathway in terms of maintenance to design, or is it just where you're
Yeah, that's actually that's a really good question. A lot of design engineers, a lot of engineers that finish their degree go and get locked in that cubicle and they get told, go and redesign something right now. With military engineers, you find that we throw you out on a flight line or throw you out into a platoon environment where you have a small amount of vehicles or a small amount of aircraft, and you can learn about that asset first before we send you to a systems program office as that design engineer, such that you don't try and redesign the thing before you know how it actually operates. Yeah.
Guys, that's a really interesting distinction to civilian life. So you get a lot of experience in the practical, actually working in the field, and then come back to a design office. In civilian life, it's a lot more difficult to come back to consultancy after going out into a mine or refinery and setting up your career as a maintenance engineer. Because if you set up your career as a maintenance engineer, you're working up through the ranks. To come back to design engineer, oftentimes you have to take a considerable step back in salary to take an equivalent type of design job. And then you're also taking a step back in terms of oftentimes your professional development and stage 2 registered practicing engineer status and that kind of stuff. So when you set your path in civilian life, you've got to choose your first couple of jobs very carefully. And the fact that defence has a pathway where you actually get to use some of that practical skills and then come back into consultancy, or what we would call consultancy, basically design, that's a really attractive feature of the defence force.
To give you a little bit more idea of what I actually do in DFR, so Defence Force Recruiting, my job within specialist recruiting team is to find engineers to come into the Australian Defence Force. So this is my sole job, to look for engineers within Queensland to come across to us. So that email address comes directly to me. So if you need to get in contact with me, have any questions on Army, Navy or Air Force, ask. And if you have a question on Air Force or Navy that I can't answer, I have counterparts in Sydney and Melbourne. I can bounce it to and they can answer those questions for you. So that'll give you really good contact. I'll also mentor you through the process. Outside there's a number of different flyers and things like that. Feel free to grab them. I think we've also got a feed on.
Yeah, so we've got the table out there. Grab whatever flyers if you're interested, and then at the EUS barbecue, these guys will be set up there, and you can actually talk to them as well. Okay, so over in engineering, and then we've got our tutorial this afternoon. So the EUS barbecue starts from 11:30. So if you've got the 12 o'clock tube, get it nice and quick. But otherwise, these guys will be there to discuss more specifics if you have other questions. Ideas about different disciplines in the Defence Force, mechanical engineering, that kind of thing. Okay. Otherwise, I can talk to you in the tutorial a little bit about the mechanical engineering stuff that I wanted to talk to you. So we'll have an early lecture today. That's everything. Thank you very much.